Hey, welcome back to our final episode of this series of Limitless TV. We've been looking at social media and we started off by looking at think before you post.
And then we've been looking at how Jesus could use social media through us.
And then last episode we looked at time and addiction and how we need to make sure we don't get too addicted to our phones but take time back for Jesus. And in this episode we're going to be looking at mental health and how social media affects our mental health.
Absolutely. So we know that social media has positives and it has negatives. And one of the negatives is the potential impact social media has on our mental health. So we all have mental health, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes I feel on top of the world, other times I'd rather just stay under the covers all day, and stuff can trigger that. And one of the big triggers for a lot of people is social media. See, social media can lead us to have good mental health and also bad mental health.
It's not all negative though, and positives come out of social media all the time. And so one example is connection. And so we can be connected to so many different people through social media. We can maybe DM them, we can tag them in a post, we can like their stuff, we can comment on the stuff. There's so many different ways that we can connect with one another using social media. Even Snapchat, you can send a selfie, just like you did last episode when you got distracted. Absolutely. And so we can use social media to be connected with people, and we live in the most connected time we've ever lived in. When you look in the Bible at Hebrews 10 verses 25, it says, "Not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." And so even back then, when they didn't have social media, they understood that you needed to be connected with one another. And so while social media is so good for us and we can stay connected, it's so important that when we hit being able to see each other once again and we can see each other in person, we need to be able to go outside and see them again. It's important that we don't just use social media to connect with others. We've got to do it in person as well.
Absolutely. But one of the negatives of social media is sometimes it can create a thing called FOMO. So FOMO means fear of missing out. And so we can often scroll through social media and we see this person's going to that party and this person's hanging out with that person and going on this holiday and going to that place. Not so much recently, but we can still see people having busy, active social lives. And sometimes I can look at it and think, why am I not invited to that party? Why do I not go to those nice places? Why am I not friends with that person? And it can lead to a thing called self-doubt. Now, self-doubt is where we doubt ourselves. It's where we think, maybe I'm not invited to those places because I'm boring. Maybe that person doesn't like me because isn't hanging out with me because I'm annoying. Or maybe I'm ugly. Whatever that insecurity is, it doesn't matter. It's still insecure. It still feels bad, and it can be brought on by the fear of missing out. But when we're feeling those feelings and it's affecting our mental health, as it would do, we can do something really, really important.
What's that, Joe?
We can practice gratitude. Ooh. There are so many things in our lives that we can be grateful for. In the Bible, in John chapter 10, verse 10, it says, "I have come to give them life and life to the full." Jesus gives us a full life. So even if you're not going to every single party, we still have things to be grateful for. For starters, we've got Jesus. Jesus is the best friend we can have, and he invites us to all the cool parties. So next time you're feeling overwhelmed by these negative feelings, remember to remind yourself of what it is you should be thankful for.
You know what, Joel? That kind of sounds like the comparison trap.
What's the comparison trap?
Well, you see, the comparison trap is where you take your highlight reel of someone else's. So I'm looking at your social media and I'm thinking, man, he's been on so many good holidays. He looks so good. Look at his shoes. They are flipping epic. And it's when I'm comparing your highlight reel, to my current reality, which at the minute I'm in bed, my hair is a mess, my beard is looking terrible, there's hairs going everywhere, and I'm just chilling in bed. That's my current reality. It's me comparing my current reality to your highlight reel. And so we want to make sure that we're not comparing our current reality to anyone else's highlight reel. We have been given a race, and our race is given by Jesus. And we want to run along it. We want to persevere on it. And it says in Hebrews 12:10, it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles." And then check this bit. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of our faith.
Love that.
And so with our comparison trap, we want to make sure that we're not getting distracted by other people's races, but in fact we are focusing on the race that Jesus has set out for us, the perfecter and the pioneer of our faith. We want to keep persevering, we want to keep running, but running our race and not someone else's. And so with social media, make sure we're not comparing with one another.
Absolutely. And all of these things, the self-doubt, the FOMO, the comparison trap, it all impacts our identity.
Yeah.
And our identity should not be rooted in social media, what we're up to, what other people are up to, but instead it should be rooted in Jesus and what Jesus has done on the cross. And that's the biggest risk of social media. One of the biggest negatives I find is that it can impact my identity, how I view myself. But I need to remind myself constantly who I am and who I belong to.
Absolutely. And so as we conclude this series of Limitless TV on social media, we want you to remember that social media is good, but there are negatives as well. But as long as you're fixing your focus on Jesus, you're taking the time to put your phone down and spend time with Him, you can use social media really well. You can use it for Him and for everything that is good on it. So make sure that you spend the time with Jesus and use social media for